Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and joining me is LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we are your hosts. We're broadcasting live every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the blogtalkradio.com network, bringing you some of the best golfers, teacher professionals, and entrepreneurs helping to elevate women's golf. We're so glad you decided to join us this morning, so grab your coffee and let's get started. All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and right alongside, of course, each and every week is none other than Legends Tour player and LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we are your hosts. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Ted.
Well, it's I kind of feel like we're a little bit in the twilight zone here. It's obviously, as most of you know out there, we're under a global pandemic. With the coronavirus, or COVID-19 as it's also referred to, and a lot of people are very, Cindy, I would say the least, feeling a little bit disjointed right now and unsure of what's going on. And, you know, there's a lot of information going back and forth through a variety of networks and healthcare professionals and government officials, and it's very difficult to really get a grasp on exactly what's going on. But we're glad that you were joining us this morning, and we hope that you're, really following the protocols and staying safe out there. We certainly don't want any of you to come down with this, and if you are, then again, certainly follow the protocol. But we're glad you joined us this morning, and I know everybody's a little bit bored out there, not sure what to do, and sort of hunkering down. So here is a great opportunity to join us this morning and certainly learn some information about your golf game and just overall be entertained. So we're here to do that for you. We got a great guest coming on, Cindy, this morning, Renee Powell. She's been on the show a few years back, and she's going to join us on the second half. We're going to do things a little bit differently. She's an LPGA and PGA professional, and she's actually the head golf professional at the Clearview Golf Club in Ohio area, which was built by her father, William Powell. And we're going to ask her a little bit about that and talk to her about him and what she's been doing over the many decades that she's been involved in the golf profession. But first, we're going to start off with, of course, another episode, if you will, of the No BS Zone. And Cindy, we got a really great discussion this morning. This is one I must confess, I did not put this together. I actually came across this, and I just found it very, very interesting. And I thought this would be something to share. And the title of today's discussion is, which mental time zone do you operate in? And I just thought it was very, very interesting, and I was reading it. It was a pretty lengthy article, as I'm sure you saw when I forwarded you the notes. So I'm just going to read a little bit out here, and then we'll get into our discussion. So for you golfers out there, I want you to imagine that, and I'm sure many of you fall into this category, reached a point with your golf development where you have run out of ideas on how to improve your game. You hit the sort of proverbial wall, and progress has come to a sudden bone-jarring halt, if you will. Possibly you've been stuck on a particular score average or handicap for months or even years and just can't seem to budge no matter what you do. So it's kind of Cindy, kind of a scary thought for a lot of folks that are out there and working hard on their game, and they just don't seem to be improving. But it's certainly daunting, but by no means is uncommon. Many advanced golfers come to a fork in their golf development pathway where they don't know which way to go. So they often describe the sensation as being stuck or even in a rut. We've even heard some professional golfers have mentioned that over the years as well. So have you ever experienced this? Yes, we all do. Maybe you have, or maybe you haven't as of yet. But Cindy, I would say one thing for certain: every golfer will go through a period of golf famine, if you will, with their game. And so we hope, with a little help from us, we can get you through it and onto better scores and more success with your game. So let's get right down to it. So this is golf improvement, which mental time zone you operate in. And it's really kind of interesting, and I want to just read out just a little bit more, and then we're going to get into the actual discussion. So we've observed, Cindy, I know you have, as well as I and many of the other golf professionals out there, common characteristics with advanced golfers, especially those who believe their game, again, is stuck in a rut. So, when you practice or play golf, you rely on your memory to determine how you play shots, and often whether they're successful or not. And so when you access this stored information about your previous experiences, you essentially are accessing a catalog, if you will, or the old mental Rolodex, and experiences from your on experiences from your past and using it to make decisions and execute shots in the present. A perfect example of this is, how does a chronic slicer of the ball know that they slice when they arrive at the first tee? And that's because they're drawing on some of these past experiences. So the question I want for golfers to ask is really, what is your sort of motivational strategy for getting things done? And here's really three categories. In the present, I'll do it now. We often hear people that sort of are in the moment. Will say that. In the future, I'll get to it later. We often hear that as well for somebody that wants to sort of put it down the road. And of course, past, I've done it before. I know how to do it. So those are common phrases sometimes we hear. And Cindy, we're going to start with past-oriented golfers, or often referred to as the historians. These golfers often reference their improvement strategies the most from past experiences. They say things like, I've always done it this way or that way, or my teacher has always told me this, and they quite often find it difficult to plan into the future because of the strong orientation and ties with the past. And Cindy, I was thinking a perfect really example of this is, we often see golfers who, again, are really struggling with their game, will often do this. They will think of past disappointments in their game, past holes that they've played unsuccessfully, and when they get up over that ball, suddenly all of those thoughts come running in. And this is something I know that you've seen. Why don't you just maybe touch a little bit about that, if you wouldn't mind, about golfers that sort of think in that mindset?
Are you talking about them accessing good memories or bad memories?
Well, bad memories. Obviously, we obviously do. If we have good memories, we're going to access that information. We need to do that. But many golfers that predominantly stay in that past sort of mindset, if you will, with everything that they do, are not only accessing the good stuff, but they're also accessing the bad stuff as well. So that's what I'm getting at.
Well, in my opinion, then they're allowing themselves to be a victim of their own poor play, or their memories, if you will. I think, when I access the past, I'm trying to remember a really good shot. When the little gerbil in my head says, oh, this was terrible, you hate this hole, I acknowledge that and say, oh, thank you, but I'm busy doing this over here, and I have to change my thought process. So I believe that if you access the past and you are afraid of a hole, you don't like a hole, you always slice it on this hole, and again, you're just allowing yourself to fail. So I think you need to, number one, become aware of it and acknowledge that you're allowing yourself to be a victim, and then you need to change up what you're saying and do something different.
Yeah, exactly. And, this type of golfer that tends to, I'll give you another example, they like to bring up past stories of their accomplishments and shots they played, and they tend to be very excellent, if you will, at remembering detail in their past lessons. And they also seem to be golfers who can tell you exactly where they were and who they were playing with, because they have excellent recall for past events. And that can be both a positive and negative. The past-oriented golfer, if you will, improvement strategy is to acknowledge that even though achieved great accomplishments in their past, progress is made by imagining very specific outcomes, they would like to, say as an example, achieve within the next 4 weeks or so, and that whatever they decide is important to them needs to link into greater achievement as they wish to accomplish for longer periods into the future. One of the problems is with that type of golfer sometimes is they can also be inclined to be very stubborn and resist new information unless it is consistent with successful strategies they have used in the past. So in other words, if somebody's struggling with their game and they come to you, Cindy, for a lesson, and you're trying to show them maybe a slightly different way of approaching a particular problem, they can get very frustrated and struggle to make progress because they're only remembering kind of what they want to remember, and they're not willing to sort of discharge some of that bad information, if you will, because they've clung on to it so tightly. So it's very, very difficult sometimes. Well, true, right? I mean, how many times have you had a
again,
lesson?
it's like, all right, if you're Mr. Know-It-All, why are you paying me to come here when I'm going to help you get out of your misery? So
right.
What I would say, they're like, I can't do that. Or, oh, no, I do it like this. And I'm saying, okay, then let's try it your way and see where the ball goes. If you can fix it, you don't need me. And I'm okay with that.
Right.
I'm fine with that. But so, again, they don't want to hear it is the problem.
Right. They get stuck in the past. They live in the past. And again, don't get me wrong, there are obviously certain good points and information. The problem is, as I mentioned, is they become very stubborn and unwilling to adapt to new theories or new changes because they're kind of set in their way, I guess, is the best way to put it. And obviously, the reason they're coming to you is because they've got a problem. They've now gotten a rut or a slump. So by being stubborn like that and not being willing to, experiment and look at new opportunities to make some change, then you're basically crippling yourself. And that's really the purpose of this discussion this morning, is to sort of identify the three different characteristics, because even though we do draw on our past and we obviously are playing in the moment, which would be present, and obviously we are going to at some point think of future opportunities and so forth. Sometimes if people get stuck into one or the other, and we're going to move on to the next one, which is the present-oriented golfers, or the journalists as they're often referred to. These are the golfers whose tendency is to experiment and dabble with different methods, and they rarely stay with any method of improvement for very long. They get distracted easily and struggle to maintain consistent routines as a result. They also like to change clubs on a regular basis because they are always looking for improvement and short-term gain, and they usually know a lot about the latest golf club technology from manufacturers. So these are the ones that like to do a lot of research. They're always watching lots of videos and internet looking for the best thing to work on. And a high proportion of Gen X's and millennials would fit into this category simply because they've been brought up in technology, so the information age, and this has dramatically affected how they experience the world around them. So the strategy of the present-oriented golfer improvement strategy is based around finding their bright and shiny objects or uniqueness and strategies or technology that they haven't heard of or used that captures their attention and generate a lot. So in other words, Cindy, and again, I know you've had these types of golfers as well, where they come out and the first thing they do in the lesson is they're telling you, well, I watched this video on YouTube, or I was reading this article, and they're sort of dissecting a specific methodology or what have you, and it's good to have discussions, but they're always looking for the latest, greatest thing, and they're not really focused sometimes on maybe what you want them to be focused on. Maybe you can expand a little bit on that. You know the individuals that I'm talking about.
I do. I do. So, again, I don't know how many of these individuals would sign up for a lesson, to be honest with you. And I don't know that they would be listening to our show right now because I don't know how teachable they are. But I would say to you, I tend to be a seeker, but in my experience and my long-term gained wisdom, I have learned there is no magic cure. So I investigate and inspect the source. So I would say to the present people that ask yourself the question, does this make sense? Should I do this? Why do they say this is the way? There is no magic cure or magic club. Now, maybe some clubs will fit you better than others, but if you're the present-oriented golfer, you've tried everything. And, yeah, you keep thinking the answer is out there instead of looking in the mirror to say, oh, maybe it's inside me. So that's what I would say. I would say it's time to stop and reflect and inspect the source and then understand the facts. So when someone comes in for a lesson with me and the ball keeps doing what it's doing and they say, what was that?
Right.
Well, you just topped it. Well, why? Well, where are you looking? Are you looking at the ball? Well, yeah. They told me to keep my eye on the ball. I go, well, I don't want you to look at the ball. I want you to look at the grass behind the ball. Well, why? Because the club's got to go down to make the ball go up. So then I might even put garbage behind the ball and say, all right, make that go up. Would you want me to hit the ball? Well, the ball's going to get in the way. So, again, it's just their mindset. No one's trying to miss it on purpose.
Of course not.
I've never met anyone who tries to miss it on purpose. So the answer is, stop and reflect and try to inspect the source, because otherwise you're going to drive yourself nuts. I've been there.
Yep.
It's not worth the trip.
Yeah, and we all have, as I mentioned in the opening comments. If you haven't been there yet, I guarantee you, even the best players in the world get into those sort of feast or famine situations where suddenly their game kind of just peters out. They're not really seeing any improvement, or they're not really experiencing anything. And something else about the just to sort of further your point with a lot of the present-oriented golfers is they like to change instructors and teachers more often as they like fresh information and these individuals tend to get bored very easily with repetitive instruction. So they want to know what's going on in golf. They're always the ones to ask because they read lots of golf-related content on the internet, or subscribe to monthly magazines and often have very active Twitter accounts. They're very, very engaged in social media, and that sometimes can work against you because again, there's a lot of great instructors out there. Cindy, I know you've got your website and many others out there which has some great information, but there's also a lot of sites out there with misinformation. And the problem is it can get very confusing if you're reading too many different things and not really focusing on, one individual that you're working with. It can be very distracting because a lot of times, Cindy, you're going to tell your students based on what you're seeing, what the best results might be. But then if somebody's chirping in their ear somewhere else, or some other visual cue that they're seeing maybe approaches it a slightly different way, it sends a lot of misinformation. So it can be very, very difficult for a lot of golfers, in this category as well, that seek out a lot of information. All right, our last category is the future-oriented golfers, or the visionaries. These are the golf dreamers who are very good at setting targets and goals to drive them and their game forward. They often talk and reference future events and use this to get excited about how good their future events are going to be, and they like to describe their improvement in terms of what it will be like when they get there. So they're not really living in the moment. Sometimes they're often thinking about down the road, which you have to do that to a certain degree. And their golf improvement strategy is that they are often so far ahead of the future that they can find it difficult to do a good job of their daily process that will get them there. So they need to have short-term goals for the day, and it gets them working on the specific processes, if you will, that will improve their chances of achieving their outcomes in the future. So, as an example, Cindy, a lot of times we You might have a golfer that comes to you that's maybe interested in getting maybe trying to make it into a Division I college and play on the golf team, but they're not really focusing in the moment, and they're thinking about down the road, or they want to get onto the LPGA or the PGA or what have you, and their thoughts are so far ahead that they're not really thinking about, okay, what do I need to do to get there? And I know you're going to really talk this because you've worked with a lot of young folks who want to go on that path specifically. So talk about just a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, when you're faced with a student like that has those dreams and ambitions, which is great, but maybe they're thinking too far down the road and they're not in the now. What would be the conversation that you might have with them?
Well, you need to have a game plan, if you will, and help them understand that there's going to be small steps and progress that need to be made, and this is where we're going to start. And then once you accomplish this task and goal, then we're going to move on to the next one. And that's, I got to tell you, one of the reasons that we purchased Operation 36 for our students. Operation 36 is a program that teaches you not only how to play and how to hit the shots, but how to score. And it measures students across their app. It has access and levels that you can rate yourself of where you are at your certain age group if you want to play D1, D2, D3 college golf. So it's really amazing because you'll have parents that come in and say, oh, they're really doing well. And it's like, well, there might be a big fish in a small pond here, but they really need to produce a little better. And needless to say, then you have the other one who says, oh, my kid's not good enough. Well, actually, your kid's 2 years ahead of where they should be at age 13. They're doing great. So that's what I believe Operation 36 will do, is help you understand this is where you are now, this is where you need to be, and then I'm going to help you know what to work on to get to where you want to go. So absolutely. Right. And the funny thing is all of these mental golf, wherever you are, what did you call it? What mental time zone are you in? So the time zone, needless to say, the past, the present, and the future, you need a little bit of all of it to be a really good player. Right. There was this, Alan will tell you this, my husband, who played on tour for a long time, that Jack Nicklaus does not remember ever three-putting to lose a tournament. And he was in a press conference, and one of the reporters said, well, Jack, actually, you three-putted on this hole, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, I've never three-putted to lose a tournament. So he's talked his brain into not ever believing that he did that. And so, good for him. Do we want to argue with success? So there's times, I've got a couple par threes at French Lick in Indiana that I can already feel my body going, oh, boy, here we go. So, it's called the pucker factor. Your butt cheeks clench. So you have to be aware of what your internal talk is and learn to get over it. Right. Or it's not going to help you at all.
Right, and you're exactly right in your analogy. You have to sort of the thing that you want to keep in mind with these sort of time orientations that we're discussing is that you will use them really all of them every day. However, you will notice by paying attention to the way you describe your approach to golf improvement that it will be influenced by your sense of time in the present, past, or future. And that's really what I'm trying to say here with this discussion is exactly as you said, Cindy. You want to have a little bit of each because obviously you are going to, as you had successes, every good player will tell you this, that they're going to draw on those past experiences. The problem is that if you get stuck in the past, especially if you're struggling with your game, and you keep bringing it into the present, and you're thinking, okay, just as you mentioned there about French Lick, you've got some par threes that you've struggled with. If you're constantly bringing that negative energy into your game, then you're going to continue to struggle, and you're going to continue to draw back on negative past experiences, just like, when you get up on the first tee, if you're somebody which we all are, has sort of those first tee jitters, and you're saying, well, I always, duck hook it, or I slice it, or top it, or whatever. If that's the thought process that you're taking to that first tee, then likely the outcome is going to be exactly what you're thinking. So you have to, change the way you're thinking, and you have to certainly draw on past experiences, and you want to bring those into the future or into the present, and you certainly want to be thinking of future things down the road, but there's an equal balance. So you want to pay attention to what you're saying and notice the clues in the way you express yourself to others, and by following, what we're saying here, from this particular article, you'll get a sense of your time and balance with your improvement strategies, and you will sort of get out of that rut and back into track of golf improvement. And the thing is, Cindy, when you're able to identify where your problem areas are, not just in your game, but in your thought process as well, things start to become a lot clearer, and you look at things differently. When you're working with your instructor, if you're sort of being open-minded, even if you've typically had success in the past, if you're obviously going to the instructor because you're having problems, then you want to be receptive and open-minded to what that individual has to say, and not just be so, narrow-focused and saying, well, no, I'm coming here, but I've got my own, way of thinking here, because it's just going to be a waste of time for both parties. And I think that's, probably the best way to put it. Any final thoughts, and then we'll move on.
No, I would challenge our listeners to try to blend a mixture of all time zones and create goals that you can reach, and know what steps you have to take to get there.
Well said. All right. That is, of course, the No BS zone, and next week we'll have another topic of discussion that we will bring into the zone. But in the meantime, we're going to get ready for our special guest, Renee Powell. Cindy, let's take a moment and listen to a great promotional spot that you've put together. Do you want to just cue us up?
If you are looking to play the game and use it as a business tool, have a listen.
Everyone knows business deals are made on the golf course. Knowing how to act is just as important as how you hit it. As an LPGA professional and corporate trainer, I offer workshops, seminars, and executive retreats to teach you how to do both. From the back nine to the boardroom, Improve Your Team from the Inside Out, or Golf 101 for Executives might be the perfect fit for your team. Maybe it's time to make some deals on the course. For more information, go to cindymillerinc.com.
And as I've said before, Cindy is a great professional to work with. Go to cindymillerinc.com and check out all of the great ways that you can connect with her and get in touch with her as well. Cindy, while we're waiting for Renee to come on board before I go through a few of the bio points and so forth, I thought this would be a great opportunity to really talk about something. We'll get into maybe even a little more detail. That might be a good topic for next week, given the current global environment. But obviously, a lot of folks are not able to get out. They've been in sort of a lockdown, if you will, and they're stuck at home. I know there are still golf courses open, but they're starting to adhere to again, the sort of economic, not economic, but this global climate. What are some things that you see that golfers can do while they're at home, while they're kind of stuck at home and not able to get out to the course or to work on their game? What are some things that maybe you would suggest to some of your students that they could do while they're at home to kind of keep themselves in golf shape, if you will, as they get ready?
The easiest thing you could do is take a yardstick and lay it on the ground and place a golf ball on top of the little hole the yardstick has to hang it in a display rack in the store, and keep the ball on the yardstick the whole time. So I would say, to putt on a yardstick and see how many you can make go all the way down the yardstick and not fall off. That's a great practice drill.
Yeah, that's great. That is a great one, and I've actually done that myself over the years. What's really nice about that is, when you keep the putt online like that for the length of a yardstick, which is of course depending on whether you're measuring in meters or yards, right? 3 feet. You're going to be on the right path, and it's going to tell you very, very quickly a lot of information about your putting stroke. So that's a great one as well. Something else that you can do is as well. I know a lot of folks right now that are sort of locked in at home are watching a lot of television. Netflix, I'm sure their stocks are raising, and some of the other providers. But and that's fine. Obviously, you've got to find ways of entertaining yourself. But there's a lot of other things that you can do as well. If you've got if you've got a mirror at home that's fairly large enough that you can kind of stand in front of and just kind of check out, get a club, and you don't have to be swinging the club, but just you can be working on your fundamentals, put a ball down, and just sort of check and make sure that all of the points that you want to identify, that you're in a good posture, that you're set up correctly. You can work on your grip. There's a lot of different things as well. And also from a physical standpoint, if you're not able to get out to a gym, as an example, there's a lot of things that you can do. Obviously, you can do little workouts at home, but stretching is a big one. One of the problems that, especially for those, Cindy, up in the Northeast that kind of like the bear hibernate for several months and not out there working on their game, and then they get out there, they're stiff, their muscles are tight. Do some great stretching exercises. There's all kinds of, certainly, obviously, you want to consult with, maybe not at this time, but there's a lot of great health providers and physicians online that will help walk you through that process to make sure that you're not doing something that's going to be harmful to you. But that's a great way, is keeping those muscles loose and stretched is a great way so that you're not getting stiff and tightened up, sitting around for possibly the next couple of weeks. So just some things to do, and putting is a great one, obviously, and you can kind of make it fun if you've got the kids home with you, and that you can kind of get them involved as well, make some little putting games, in the house. And again, don't be swinging the big club inside, because you don't want to be breaking lamps or windows or things like that. But there's a lot of things that you can do. But anyways, I see that Renee is ready. So let me just read a little bit about our special guest this morning. Again, her name is Renee Powell. She's been on the show before. She's an LPGA and PGA Head Golf Professional at the Clearview Golf Club. She is one of the most resilient and persevering athletes of our time. She was raised on the East Canton, Ohio golf course, built by her father, William Bill Powell, during times of racial adversity and segregation. Renee learned early on what it is meant to excel against the odds, and by the age of 3, she was swinging the golf club for the first time. And early into her teenage years, she had won more than 30 tournaments. In 1967, she became the second African-American woman to compete on the LPGA Tour. And as a tour player, she competed in more than 250 professional tournaments and won the 1973 Kelly Springfield Open in Brisbane, Australia. Cindy, let's welcome our very special guest this morning, Renee Powell.
Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. How are you? Good to hear your voice, and good to talk to you this morning.
You too. Well, how are you doing down
Very
there?
Good.
Well, we are hanging in here. We don't have any snow. We have rain, and I have a lot of open space to walk on.
Well, that's a blessing.
That is. You're right. So how are things up your way?
Same here. It's a little chilly. We're trapped like rats with no cheese in the house. We gave a couple lessons last week, but we are on hold now.
Right.
I sure hope, so I have to ask, we're not going to cancel your event, are we, yet?
Well, not yet. We're hopefully things will have turned around enough that we will get back to some sort of normalcy, which will be a little bit different than what we've had. But hopefully, things will still move along, and in June I'll be able to see you.
Okay, doke. Great. Ted, go ahead. You can start.
All right. Good morning and welcome, Renee, back to the Women of Golf show, and thank you for taking time this morning to join us. I wanted to start off before we talk about Clearview Golf Club to really talk about the gentleman that was inspirational and instrumental in putting it together. And of course, I'm talking about your father, Bill Powell. Who was he, and how did he become interested initially in golf?
Well, he grew up in a small town just 10 miles from where we are now, where he built a golf course. And back in 1926, they were building a golf course. They actually had 9 holes in, and he and a little friend had walked down the railroad tracks, and they'd walked all afternoon, I guess, and came upon this open space with these people that he said had sticks in their hands, hitting this ball, looked like they were trying to hit it to lose it, and then they walked and not ran to try to find it to hit it again. So he fell in love with golf. He thought, wow, that's, because kids at that age, at 9 years of age, they run to everything, and, things are exciting to them, and this is something that was so totally different, and he was fascinated by it. He ended up working at this golf course, through the years through high school and grade school, and he ended up taking up the game at the age of 9. My grandmother did day work for a doctor, the local doctor in town. My grandmother would take my dad to work with her because he was the youngest, and the doctor found out that my dad loved golf, and he would take him to the golf course with him, and my dad became the doctor's playing partner, and his little friend became the doctor's caddy.
Very good. It's interesting when you think about how people get interested in the game. Obviously, some, perhaps grew up in a family that had golfers in it, so whether it be a parent or what have you, and they sort of teach the next generation and introduce them to the game, and then some sort of, much like your father, kind of stumble on it, during a leisurely walk, if you will, and say, hey, this is something that looks kind of interesting. Where was the turning point, do you feel? Obviously, from a very early age, he got out and he started to play and learn and understand the game, and obviously had the benefits of working a little bit in that environment. But walk us through a little bit, if you wouldn't mind. There came a point in time he said, you know what, we need to expand this game and make it available for many, many others that maybe typically would not have that opportunity. And he made a decision at some point to accept the challenge, if you will, and built the Clearview Golf Club. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, he grew up actually in a town it's called Minerva, Ohio, and their family was the only black family in the town. And so my dad and his older brother started the very first high school golf team that they ever had. And after high school, my dad wasn't able to play at the same courses that he could as a high school student because he was with the team. And he had attempted to play and eventually got into this one tournament. But when he was like 16 years old and he walked like 21 miles one way to go to the tournament, he got there. They didn't know what to do with him because he was the only black kid there. And they eventually let him play. But at that time, he then decided, because he had always done things over the years with youth golf, and he decided at that point that he was never going to do something to dissuade youngsters from playing the game of golf, and he was always going to do things to open doors for youth to play the game because of what he went through. So actually, he and his older brother started the first golf team at Wilberforce University, and as a matter of fact, the very first golf match played between a historically black college and a white college in the United States was played in 1937, and my dad and my uncle were part of that team. And then fast forward to World War II, went away to World War II. Of all places, he ended up in Scotland and England. And as a golfer, I guess that would be the best place to go, at that time. And he found that he was welcome to play golf at different courses there, on a day off. The members would let him use their clubs and would let him play the courses. And he said he thought after spending 3 years over there that when he came back home that things would have changed. And when he came back, he found out that they had not. And that's when he decided that he was going to do something to make a major difference, because he absolutely despised, segregation and
right.
prejudice, how Clearview came into existence.
Very, very interesting. And it just goes to, I guess, the point that when you have a mindset that I can, it's amazing what you can accomplish. And obviously your father had that gift of, I can do anything I set my mind to. And he rose to that challenge and decided through golf that this would be a great opportunity, as you said, to really bring youth, if you will. And I think that was a fantastic way to approach it. Cindy, go ahead. I have some more questions, but you go ahead.
So tell us how he built the golf course, because this is unbelievable.
Well, he didn't have equipment. He had, and I guess being in Scotland, England, seeing the courses there and so many of the natural elements, he was so determined and just persevered to do something that is unbelievable. He had only a hand seater, and with a hand seater around his neck that, you turn it and it spreads the seed in small areas. But he literally walked back and forth on every single fairway, which is how every fairway on the original 9 holes was seeded, with him just spreading the seed, turning this little hand seeder, and spreading the seed to grow the grass. He actually was an old dairy farm. It was a rundown dairy farm that was no longer in use, and there were a lot of rocks and things out there, and he had to by hand just pull a lot of fence posts out, and take a lot of rocks out of the ground, and he was such a visionary, and I guess it was just like really being like an artist, being like a painter of where where things go, and looking at where a green would go and where the fairways would go, and the stream runs all through the golf course, and he used that stream that runs the course to put holes in various places. So a lot of times people will say, well, who laid out the golf course for him? They would ask him, and he said, nobody did. I did. I've run into people that said, I remember when your dad bought the golf course. I said, he didn't buy the golf course. He built the golf course. But he was just so determined to make a difference for everyone, for men, for women, for youth, regardless of your religion, the color of your hair, your eyes, your skin. He just felt that everyone should have an opportunity to play the game of golf, which he actually fell in love with at the age of 9 and played for the next 84 years of his life.
Wow. Fantastic. Cindy?
So tell us what you do with the women who have served and are serving our country.
Well, as I said, my dad was a World War II veteran, and then I actually had an opportunity during Vietnam War, and Mary Lou Crocker, who played on the tour with us, Mary Lou and I were asked to go to Vietnam. It was back in 1971 during the war with USO. And because I felt that it was the one thing that I could do in the height of the war, where so many of our youngsters were over there, and to take a little bit of home to them, I did that. And I think that had become something that really settled in my mind a lot, the fact that Daddy was a World War II veteran, the fact that I had gone to Vietnam and always in support of those who serve us and allow us to be free and enjoy freedom. So when I was told by a friend of mine at the PGA of America about they had created a program called PGA Hope, and he was telling me how women veterans had no golf programs or recreational programs to fall back on like the men did. I sort of looked into it, and actually the state of Ohio has sent more individuals to war, and we've had more veterans in this state than any other state. We're also the first state to have a created in Ohio, it's the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame. So anyway, what I decided to do then, I looked into it and thought, oh my gosh, he's absolutely right. And I decided to create a program for women military veterans that because so many of our women are dealing with PTSD, we've got Purple Hearts, and people always would look at women serving in the military as maybe just being a secretary or not really out in the battlefield, not on the front line where things were happening. And I learned so much about it, and we created this program. It's called Clearview Hope, so it's based on the PGA Hope program, named after Clearview. And one by one, I found women, and there are roughly about a little over 50 on our roster, and we have it's a cost-free, year-round program for women military veterans, about women from the pre-Vietnam era all the way to Afghanistan, and we have all 5 branches of service that are represented. When we finally got a Coast Guard, oh my gosh, I was so excited. I couldn't even remember her first name. I just called her Coastie because I was so excited to have a Coast Guard too. And just to listen to them, I never asked them questions, but listen to some of the things that they've gone through. And I've had probably a half a dozen women or more come to me to say that this program has literally saved my life. And when people say that to you, you really get chills. And you really, I'm so proud of the fact that my dad worked with, God gives all of his talents. And I had some talents. My dad developed those. And I'm able to use those talents to help our women veterans to enjoy the day, to come out of their houses, to they're in a safe place, and to enjoy a new sport that they never, ever thought they could play.
Isn't that awesome, Ted?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Again, it just really goes to show the legacy that your father really created, and just how far-reaching golf in general has become through people like your dad. And I want to ask you, because obviously I'm sure there's many things that you've learned from him, but what particular do you think that you learned from your father that has really helped you today where you are?
Well, knowing that no matter what adversity might be out there, that set a goal and just get to the other side, to that you can achieve anything that you want to achieve in life.
Yeah, I think that's some great words of wisdom. Now, you have also, in addition to playing this great game, of course, you also teach this game. What is it, in your opinion, before we get into a little bit about the teaching side of things, what is it about golf, do you think, that people just seem to grab? I mean, as you know, and Cindy and I know, it can be a tough game at times. But why do we love it so much, do you think? What is it about golf that we just love?
It can be a tough game all the time. But you know what? It's the thing is that it's you as an individual that is doing something. It's not that you have to rely upon somebody else. And I think as a little girl, I ran into a lot of difficulties, when it came to racism and prejudice. But what I found was I'd be out there with my golf club, with my golf balls, and hit a golf ball, you get it airborne, you know that you did it. And that golf ball doesn't talk back to you. It doesn't give you negative feedback, And it's a challenge. It's a personal challenge. And you're out with nature. I mean, where else where else could you be where you could enjoy, just looking at life? There's life in the trees and life in the grass, and there's no better place than a golf course, I think. And I feel like my dad, that everyone should have this opportunity, but I think that people love it because of the fact that it's something that they can do. And I think that you look at the game of life and you look at the game of golf, and you can sort of compare the two. I mean, you can get up in the morning and you can say, wow, it's a really lousy day. It might be rainy, it might be snowing, but at least you're getting up. But you can look at a golf course, and you can look at to the right, it might be out of bounds, or to the left, it might be a water hazard, but you look down the fairway, and it's something positive. So it's a personal challenge which does not rely upon anyone else but yourself.
That is an excellent way of putting it, Renee. You're exactly right. We've talked about this on the show before, that how golf really and life mimic one another. You get faced with a lot of different adversities and challenges in our lives as we do out in the golf course, and they really do complement one another, and they help you overcome some of those by being persevere through the many challenges that you face on both sides, and I think they certainly help one another. Just one final question I have, and then Cindy, I'm going to put it back to you, is as I mentioned, in addition to playing, you also teach. What do you like most about teaching golf?
Well, I think that what I enjoy the most is seeing people accomplish something. They come to us because they want to learn, or they want to improve, or they have little goals and things that they want to do and reasons why they come. And so my thing is to help them fulfill and things that they want to do. And so that's what really brings a lot of joy to me, is seeing your pupils leave happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot. They obviously have a part to play. I mean, we provide them with the tools and the training, if you will, to become better golfers. But the golfer has their part as well. And I think that sometimes, Cindy, I think you would agree, is the challenges today, is to getting them out there and working on some of the different fundamentals and some of the different things that we've instilled in them. Everybody's, and we talked about this earlier in our discussion, is that everybody's sort of in the now. They want the short-term fixes and so forth. And Renee, I know you see that as well. Cindy, go ahead. I know you've got some more questions.
Tell us, I know that you and your brother run the facility now, mm-hmm. and you have a pro-am that, a lot of the tour players you played with and new ones and younger ones come and raise money for the Clearview Legacy Hope Foundation. Mm-hmm. Tell us the passion and motivation that your father passed down to you, which has allowed you to continue on his mission.
Wow.
What's the one thing, the burn? What's your burn?
Well, I guess the one thing is, and it's also what my mom did too, was passing on the fact that you always have to give back to society, and that no matter who you are, every person can do something to make our society better. And the way I find that I can do it mostly, and I've done a lot of programs like all over the world, and the program that I feel I get the most reward from is this program with our women veterans, and I think it's because of the fact that they signed on the dotted line. They went wherever the government said that they needed to go, and the one thing that I can do is to give them something, and it's my way of helping to allow us to have freedom, helping to allow us to be safe. And I think that is what really drives me to do what I do.
Is it because you admire their sacrifice for us?
I think a lot of that has to do with it, Cindy, because I certainly, when I stand and I'm talking to them, I always realize I'm looking at all these people that have served. They're all veterans, and I'm still a civilian. I'm a part of what they do. I run what they do, but I'm still a civilian, and I haven't made the sacrifice that a lot of them have made. And I see a lot of them that who have made these sacrifices have come back with not completely whole as when they left. So there are a lot of physical and a lot of mental challenges. And golf is what I know. Golf is what we know. It's something I've always done. And it's the one thing that I can do to contribute to society.
And to serve them. And give them hope.
To absolutely serve them, Cindy. And I love it. I love what I do. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And, sometimes a lot of these veterans that come back, sometimes they just need a distraction. And golf has really, there are obviously many people, including yourself, that have really reached out to the veteran community and said, look, we want to, help in any way we can. And I know you do a lot of great work. And obviously, as you just pointed out, you use the game itself and the tools that you've learned to be able to help many of these folks, both men and women, really navigate through a very challenging time. So as we wrap up, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say one thing. I was going to say that, and as Cindy had mentioned, a lot of the lady pros come here, and the fact that these women are able to meet these women celebrities that treat them so special, and they absolutely love it. And so, that too is very special. So I always have to thank all my women like Cindy and all the others that come here that are just so kind and so generous to be here and help in the ways that they can help too.
I couldn't agree more.
We're all in this together.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right, and there are a lot of great LPGA professionals out there, like both of you, that really do some phenomenal work. So my hat's off to all of the ladies of the LPGA. Renee, as we wrap up, we just got a couple of minutes left, but we wanted to give you an opportunity to maybe share with the listeners the best way that they can get in touch with you, number one, but also if they're interested in helping, with your charity and doing some of the great work, how they can contribute, whether it be financially or even maybe volunteering with some of their time to help out. Where's the best place to go to get that information if they want to reach out to you?
Oh, absolutely. I love any kind of help. I'm always looking for help. It's they can contact me at rpowell, Powell, at clearviewgolfclub.com. And or if they go and they just look up Clearview Golf Club, they would find an address and everything there. But rpowell at clearviewgolfclub.com, and anybody can reach me there.
Perfect. Well, Renee, we want to thank you for coming on the show this morning and sharing some great thoughts and insight to not only the game, but also sharing, the memory of your father and the great work that he did to start things off. And, we want to wish you much continued success. Now, Cindy mentioned earlier that about a tournament in June. I know you're given current climate out there that you're not sure, but when is it scheduled for?
Well, we have a dinner on Sunday, June 7th, and then the Pro-Am is the following day, Monday, on the 8th of June. So we've been doing it for quite a few years, and Cindy comes, and I missed her last year, and so I'm so excited that she'll be able to come this year because she gives them some incredible tips to the audience. and so hopefully that will be able to take place. Because it's a fundraiser for our foundation and for our Women Veterans Program.
I couldn't agree more. If for some reason, obviously, depending on what happens, are you planning on maybe rescheduling later in the year if necessary? Have you got to that point yet, or are you still sort of undecided there too?
Well, if we're unable to do it at that time, then I will postpone it because it helps to raise funds for our veterans program, which is something that I'm just so dedicated to, and so I don't want to go a year without something happening and us being able to do things, and because as I say, our program is year round and it's cost free, so and it continues to grow. So the women pay for absolutely nothing.
Perfect. For those of you listening to the show, you can go to clearviewgolfclub.com, find all kinds of great information.
Well, no, it's going to be rpowell@clearviewgolfclub.com.
Okay, my apologies.
Or they can go to our website, which is www.clearviewgolfclub.com, or just even if they just type in Clearview Golf Club, they'll find a lot of information on how to get to us.
Perfect. Renee, thank you very much for joining Cindy and I this morning on the Women of Golf, and good luck this season. Hopefully we will be back to normal here before due time, and I hope that your tournament is able to go off on its scheduled time. We'll be keeping you in our thoughts and prayers, but thank you so much for what you give back to the game and for being such a force with many of the veterans out there as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And Cindy, I look forward to seeing you.
I can't wait. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. That was our special guest, Renee Powell. And I know we ran a couple of minutes over time, so we want to thank you all for tuning in to Women of Golf show this morning. And we're out of here. We'll see you next week here on the Women of Golf. Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks, Ted. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening this morning to the Women of Golf show. Tune in live each week by visiting blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf or on any of these social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. If you can't join us live, check out our on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts. To get updates for future shows and upcoming guests, you can follow us on Facebook at Women of Golf. You can also follow me on Twitter at TedandBuckCEO and Cindy at Cindy Miller Golf. Please remember to join us next week on the Women of Golf show. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.